The 18th of January is Winnie the Pooh Day. And so I'm going to read you a Winnie the Pooh and Friends story by A.A. Milne called Piglet Meets a Heffalump. One day, Christopher Robin said carelessly, "I saw a heffalump today, Piglet." "I saw one once," said Piglet. "At least I think I did." "So did I," said Pooh, wondering what a heffalump was like. Then they talked about something else until it was time for Pooh and Piglet to go home. As they came to the 6 pine trees, Pooh said, "Piglet, I have decided to catch a heffalump." Pooh waited for Piglet to say how, but Piglet said nothing. The fact was, Piglet was wishing that he had thought of it first. "I shall do it," said Pooh, "by means of a trap." "It must be a cunning trap, so you will have to help me, Piglet." "How shall we do it?" said Piglet, and they sat down to think it out. Pooh's idea was that they should dig a very deep pit, and the heffalump would come and fall in. "Why would he fall in?" said Piglet. Pooh said the heffalump might be looking up at the sky, wondering if it would rain, so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down. Pooh felt sure that a bear with a very clever brain could catch a heffalump if he knew the right way. "Suppose," he said to Piglet, "you wanted to catch me. How would you do it?" "Well," said Piglet, "I should make a trap, put a jar of honey in, and you would smell it and go in after it, and I should lick round the edges first, and then the middle, and then," said Pooh excitedly. "Yes, well, never mind about that," said Piglet. "The first thing to think of is, what do heffalumps like? I should think acorns, shouldn't you?" Pooh, who had gone into a happy dream, woke with a start and said honey was a much more trappy thing than acorns. "All right, I'll dig the pit while you go and get the honey," said Piglet. "Very well," said Pooh, and he stumped off. As soon as he got home, he took down a large jar from the top shelf. It had honey written on it. He took a large lick. "Yes," he said, "it is, no doubt about that," and he gave a deep sigh, having made certain he took the jar back to Piglet. Piglet said, "Is that all you've got left?" And Pooh said yes, because it was. So Piglet put the jar at the bottom of the pit, and they went off home together. "Good night," said Piglet, "and we meet at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning and see how many heffalumps we've got in our trap." Some hours later, Pooh woke up. He was hungry. He went to the larder, stood on a chair, and reached the top shelf and found nothing. "That's funny," he thought. "I know I had a jar of honey there." Then he began to murmur to himself, "It's very, very funny, because I know I had some honey, because it had a label on saying honey. A galoptious full up pot too, and I don't know where it's gone to. No, I don't know where it's gone. Well, it's funny." Suddenly, he remembered. He had put it into the cunning trap. He got back into bed, but he couldn't sleep. He tried counting heffalumps, but every heffalump was making straight for Pooh's honey and eating it all. Pooh could bear it no longer. He jumped out of bed and ran to the 6 pine trees. In the half light, the very deep pit seemed deeper. Pooh climbed in. "Bother," said Pooh as he got his nose inside the jar. "A heffalump has been eating it." And then he thought a little and said, "Oh no, I did. I forgot." But there was a very little left at the bottom, and he pushed his head right in and began to lick. By and by, Piglet woke up. He didn't feel very brave. What was a heffalump like? Was it fierce? Wouldn't it be better to pretend he had a headache and couldn't go to the 6 pine trees? But suppose it was a very fine day and there were no heffalump in the trap. Here he would be, simply wasting his time for nothing. What should he do? Then he had a clever idea. He would go now, peep into the trap and see if there was a heffalump there. If there was, he would go back to bed, and if there wasn't, he wouldn't. So off he went. As he got nearer, he could hear it heffalumping about like anything. "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear," said Piglet to himself. He wanted to run away, but felt he must just see what a heffalump was like. So he crept to the side of the trap and looked in. And all the time, Winnie the Pooh had been trying to get the honey jar off his head. He tried bumping it against things and tried to climb out of the trap, but couldn't find his way. At last he lifted his head, jar and all, and made a roaring noise of sadness and despair. And it was at that moment that Piglet looked down. "Help, help!" cried Piglet. "Horrible heffalump!" And he scampered off as hard as he could. He didn't stop crying and scampering until he got to Christopher Robin's house. Whatever's the matter? Said Christopher Robin. Heff, said Piglet. A heffalump. What did it look like? It had the biggest head you've ever seen. A huge, big, I don't know, like enormous nothing. Like a jar. Well, said Christopher Robin, I shall go and look at it. Come on. Then Piglet saw what a foolish piglet he had been, and he was so ashamed that he ran straight home and went to bed. Christopher Robin and Pooh went home to breakfast together. Oh, Bear, said Christopher Robin, how I do love you. So do I, said Pooh.